Beautiful afternoon from the studios of Citizen FM 93.7 and another inspiring episode of our program From the Cross of the Arts. I am Maimuna Garba, your pilot of the program. We will be looking at the role of the community in advancing exploration, exploitation, and the roles they are expected to play, their gains, the roles of the communities in preserving and protecting the environment, as well as the way forward in the mining sector. This afternoon, as usual, as well as a specialist in geographic information system, Nwan for Chidima. You're all welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to kick off the discussion with an enlightenment on the provisions of the 2007 Mining Act as it affects concerned communities. What are the provisions of the Act?
One of the critical elements when it comes to mining, so the backbone of mining is the host communities. The host communities is almost everything when it comes to mining. When you want to advance exploration, you want to advance mining, host communities are very, very critical in the entire structure. That's why the law, Mining Act 2007, has actually made a provision within Chapter 4. So from Section 97 to about 130 something, you talk about host communities. All the entire Chapter 4 dealt with the host communities. Now, what are the rights of the host communities actually done there? The right of the license operator is also actually found there. Now, the host communities are very critical when it comes to consenting, when it comes to granting you consenting for exploration. The host communities plays a bigger role when it comes to a CDA, what we call Community Development Agreement. And also, this is a kind of a buy-in. You can't do any business in any location if the host communities don't buy into the idea of what you want to do. So it's an issue of you want to bring a business to them. They have to understand what you want to do. They will have to give you support. Now, there are a lot of things they play along the chain. There are a lot of things that actually the host communities come into. For example, when it comes to the number one thing in the entire thing is security, the issue of security. Now, the issue of security in this country, everybody knows that it's something that we don't actually toy with. And your first security, the first line of security when it comes to mining is the host community, because the host communities understand who are the strangers. They will tell you these are the locations you need to go, these are the locations you don't need to go. In short, I've got several experiences when it comes to something like this. There was a time I went for exploration in Kaduna. The particular location I was going in was where the kidnappers were actually building houses. So they were there then. It was the host community that told me at that particular line, you don't actually cross there. That is the border. This is the border line. So they advance. They when it comes to security, they are number one. Then also when it comes to the issue of illegal mining, illegalities, and the history of actually what has actually happened in the location where you are mining, the host communities can actually give you an idea of even if there are some previous mining that actually happened there. So historically, they are in there. So again, when it comes to the issue of veneration, some location that some trees, there are some certain trees you don't touch. There are some certain trees you don't bring down and all that. So the host communities play a vital role in guiding you, bringing you to a particular point of view that this is actually what you have to do and what you don't have to do. That is, I think there are a lot of rules, but these are the critical rules that actually works when it comes to mining. Okay, so this is the first. Okay, now when it comes to mining, in any host communities, you're talking about the role they play in terms of exploration. Now, after the exploration, we'll talk about the issue of mining, talk about pre-developmental activities. But the first thing is when you are restricting the roles of the host communities to exploration. One, I said it's very, very important that the host communities guide you throughout your exploration program, at least the location you want to explore. Now, there are some locations that are actually reserved, either by government and by locals and other, and some historical issues has to deal with issue of some places are objects of veneration that we don't actually cut down trees. they come into that aspect. Also, in the issue of consent, you cannot explore without consent. That is the first thing. The consent in a the section, some sections, which section 100 actually provided the issue of consent, which has to be signed by the landowners or immediate land occupiers. There's a provision for the paramount ruler to sign. There's a provision for the immediate land occupiers to sign, and there's a provision for another person which might actually be appointed by, the paramount ruler or as a community might be. There are some land that are individually owned. There are some that are actually kind of a communal land. So when it becomes a communal land, sometimes it's a bit easier to deal with. When it becomes some individual land, sometimes when the paramount ruler has actually signed, the landowner might have another different thing. So the role is that the community has to come in as one and support your mining program. So that is the number one role they play, that consent. Once the consent is actually given to you, according to the law, and that is actually be sent to the mining cadastre for further processing of your applications. So that is it. Now, apart from that, community also can come in terms of supporting, in terms of labor, when it comes to exploration. In short, your immediate labor comes from the community, because at that particular time, most of the things you are doing are at risk. So you don't bring in professionals or people that don't actually live within there to come in to do every minor thing. In short, some locations you go to, the number one aspect we check for is labor. Do you have enough labor within the community? It cuts down your costs, so they come into that. And also in terms of security, guiding your mining, your exploration equipment. If the communities are not there, you cannot leave any of your tools, like some of the drilling tools and some of the exploration tools are left in their care. So if you are not supported and you leave that there, if the security is not there, definitely you're going to have some issues. So the issue of security, the issue of labor, the issue of consenting are the three critical roles they play when it comes to the exploration program. Okay, after exploration, now we'll talk about exploitation. In short, the major impact in the whole mining activities is when exploitation is being carried out. So exploitation is all about trying to win the ore, which you've actually discovered through your exploration processes and all that. Now, when that actually wants to happen, a lot of issues, a lot of impacts are actually felt on the local community directly. Some are definitely, when you talk about your environment, you talk about the land, you talk about the air, you talk about the water. And the communities, most of the communities, most of them do not even have any source of water apart from the stream, which is the surface water and all that. And the air they breathe also, the communities also have all this. Now, how will they benefit from this? Now, that's the essence of community development agreement. During the process of the community development agreement, the entire thing, when it comes to the rights of the host communities, there is everything, there's every thing that has been designed within the law for you to ensure that everything that has to do with the environmental impacts, all the direct impact on the community is actually mitigated, So there's a community, a kind of committee that actually formed to monitor and ensure that every aspect that is actually agreed on the CDA are actually carried along. You don't just come in and dump your tailings everywhere, that will impact directly on the water they use. There should be a kind of, if your tailings is so hazardous, there is a way it should actually be disposed. And not only that, it could actually be treated. You can't just dispose them directly to the surface water. So I think in the overall thing, where they have to play a major role is by monitoring and ensuring that the CDA are actually carried along. There should be a kind of monitoring team, even from the ministry. There are some people that are actually involved from the ministry. There are some from the operators, and there are some from the communities. So if the CDA is done accordingly, the way it should be done, every aspect of environmental impact, is actually done there. Also, there are what we call EPRP. EPRP is also a kind of a provision to ensure that all the rehabilitation and protections, at the end of the day, that mining is actually done, there is a proper closure or proper reclamation according to the law. So, okay, like I've just said earlier on, I pointed out the issue of EPRP, Environmental Protection and Rehabilitation Plan. is a part of a program. Apart from that, there's also EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment. Now, there's also CRSA, Companies Social Responsibility, and all that. These are all the things that are actually designed to ensure that the host community, every impact that actually felt during the mining actually curtailed. Now, what is all this all about? It's all just about taking the baseline studies, understanding where the host communities were, what the water looks like, what the air looks like, the air quality, and what the land looks like, the topography of the land you met, what it looks like. When you have all this as a baseline, now at the end of every, annually, at the end of every season, they're going to call a kind of proper check. You need to check your baseline, where you are coming from when you started the operation and where you are now. If there is a shift in it, you actually know the outliers, the shifts, from where you started and where you stopped. Now, there is every tendency in EIA, because every work you want to do, depending on the kind of mineral you are mining, if you are mining lead, if it's a surface mine or tunnel and all that, there is every provision for you to say the kind of work you want to do and the kind of hazardous material that will come out, either it's pollution on the land, on the air, and in the water and all that. Then the mitigation is the most important thing. How you are going to guard against some of these things, especially the surface water. These are mostly affected. Most of the time, the land, which is actually degraded in terms of opening pits, and you see some people living it and not reclaiming it rightly. You can see that at the end of the day, that pit can develop into something else. Either people, so most of the animals are endangered, or even the host communities are endangered, or you see gully erosions coming up from such thing. So that actually should also be taken care of. Disposal of waste. If you are mining something that the tailings are something that you see even in air can actually take off. You need to dispose them in a proper way. Either it has to be buried and covered and all that. Now, if you are mining in such a way that that you have like dust, like in some places, you see that once they start mining, the entire air in that location, you find out that if you check most of the air quality there, some of the parameters are very, very high. So there is this tendency that you need to have a lot of trucks that will be dampening the air, in the dust and all that. And also, the ministry has so much role, to play when it comes to monitoring. Because it's not the community that actually will monitor what you are doing per se. The role of the government, the regulatory agencies, like the environmental, the NESRAL and all that, has so much role to play to make sure that whatever you've said in your EIA, your EPRP, is actually also done accordingly. And in terms of EPRP, there's something that needs to be actually done that the law actually provides for. It's like saving from day one. When you started making money, you start saving. There should be an account that you should be saving, so that at the end of your mining program, you don't need to start looking for money to reclaim the environment. All the things you need to be done has to start from day one. And that fund is domiciled, in such a way that the community sees the fund, the government also check on the fund. So they will make sure that that fund is there, so that immediately you finish, reclamation will not be a problem. So these are certain things that are actually provided for a smooth operation actually given. And also, the paramount rulers have a major role. The major role is actually in terms of sensitization issues. Most of the people most of these host communities, some of the landowners directly do not even understand what you are doing. In short, sometimes when you are exploring, they think you are mining. When you are mining, you are doing some pre-development program, they think you've actually started making money. So you see agitations, you see some communities that are being radicalized. Immediately you see some mining activities coming in. The youth restiveness start increasing because they think you've started making so much money. And because this name, mining, has this wave of there's a lot of money in it, every mineral do not give you the same thing. There are some, for example, now the lithium is the end thing everywhere. The lithium is increasing, the prices of lithium is very high. It's not the same thing as going to mine coal. It's not the same thing as going to mine limestone. It's not the same thing as going to mine barite. And the funniest part is that it's the same method you are going to use, almost the same cost, but not the same price. So when some of these operators are trying to, break even, the youth will be bringing demands that are outrageous, or certain things that they think there's so much money coming in. So, but if there is a if they are well sensitized about the program and what is going on, and also the honesty from the leaders. When you go from some of the community, the hierarchy is there. Most of the communities, some of the other ones believe that their leaders are not telling them the truth, believe that the leaders have actually taken so much money and all that. So I think that this collaboration, you need to carry every section of the community along. The women wing, the youth wing, the old ones, then the paramount rulers and the cabinet. So when all of them are actually carried along and there's enough collaboration, I think if everybody is brought on the same table, most of the time you have the peace you have to mind. If that peace is not there, it is very difficult for you to actually go on, whether or exploitation.
Cases of scuffles between host communities and agencies involved in mining activities are not unheard of. How can this be minimized? One for Gideon.
Okay. I think these is everyday issues. In short, as I'm talking to you, I've got one of the worst experiences coming from one of the states in this country. You can't believe, after having a mining lease that was supposed to last for 25 years, the host communities never allowed the operator to go in because of some issues. And that is notwithstanding. In short, they allowed other illegal miners to come in and keep working. So it keeps on coming now. I think that the major issue in this is the government need to play a greater role when it comes to this. In short, after the CDA, most of the operators, some of the things that actually cause it is most of the operators do not actually they don't actually go in according to the CDA, according to what is actually agreed on. Secondly, most of them go in with this mindset that they are going to make it big. They are going to see some orgs after not exploring. So you can see that exploration is a critical thing when it comes to this. And when you don't have enough to mine, and you've actually signed certain things, the host community will be expecting so much from you. And also, most of the host communities believe in this cash exchanging hands, which is not actually what is the provision of the law. Now, if you go there, you don't bring in cash, definitely most of them will not allow you, especially from most of the leaders, community leaders. They need to take some cash and take so much from you. And again, there are this sort of changing that is coming up from the operators. And this collaboration, you see some sections of the community who want to collect some cash, leaving some sections. At the end of the day, you find out that there will be agitation in different areas. So I believe for us to minimize this, there should be a proper, collaborations. One, you need to carry, when you come into every community, like what we do right now. When we come into every community, we want to make sure that every segment of that community is represented in the CDA. They are represented in the signing, they are carried along in everything. So you need to ask questions. First of all, this land, is it individually owned or community land and all that? There's a place we've been working on now for over 1 year. We've been having some issues of settling, to come in because of this dispute among some segments of the community. So we wanted to bring all of that. At the end of the day, everybody had to sign that they are agreeing. The youth, the representatives of the youth, the immediate landowners, the other segment of the community, the people that are, the elites. Sometimes the elites will come in and think you've actually done something to cheat or actually take advantage of the people that actually live in the village. So what I think is, first of all, you need to understand that sharing money, cause a lot of issues. So whatever you need to do, make sure that the much representation of the communities are involved. But most of the times, it's like delaying the evil days, because some of the operators will want to have these things within 1 week. You cannot do CDA in 1 week. You don't do consent under 1 day, under a man's rule. So some people sign a consent in some cities and go to You know, when you now come on ground to implement what you've actually signed, they will tell you they don't know you. Who are you? Where are you coming from? So you need to be sincere in meeting with the right people, looking at the hierarchy of the community. That is where some of these things have to be minimized. And also, if government, the state government, because of the exclusive lists and some of the exclusive law that actually meant that these minerals is actually bestowed under the portfolios of the federal government, you know, most of the state governments seem to have no business in mining. So, but if the state governments actually need to be encouraged in terms of forming SPV, you know, if they form SPV and they are handling some issues that have to do with the community or the country, because these communities are within their own jurisdiction, you know, so it will be easier to handle, you know. So the SPV, maybe if they form the SPV and bring in investors, their own role can be to work with the community, collaborate with the community, sensitize the community. So community will see the eye of the state government in what they are doing, you know, rather than seeing the federal government, because the federal government is far away from the local communities. So these are some of the things also we need to encourage, but it's not there. But SPVs being you know, backed by the state government can also go a long way in working to obtain the consent from the community. So if this is actually done, I think it can minimize some of this feud that you see that we're experiencing between the host communities and the operators. The state government also play a vital role, but there is something that we've noticed in the field. You know, the federal government has every mines officer in every state, and some states also have a kind of an agency or solid mineral ministries within the state that also seems to be duplicating the kind of you know, the same job or the same role that the federal mines officers are actually playing. This is not supposed to be so. There should be a kind of also, and most of the time, find out that the state government are on their own, the federal mines officer is on his own. There should be a kind of a collaboration between these two, so that when operators come into a state, he doesn't get confused of who to meet and where to go to. So there should be a flow from the federal mines officer, definitely maybe from federal mines officer you go to the state mines officer, or the case may be. But the exclusive law that made this as if it's all about federal government job. Also, the states can also partake in terms of mining when it comes to, like what I said earlier on, the special purpose vehicle using the SPV to you know, buying into what they are doing. Some states have actually done that. From our program, IAMESEP, our visitation to Osun State show that they have something like that. Our visitation to Nasarawa State show they have something like that. So what is it all about? It's just about a state-owned kind of a company that have interest in mining. So they can actually use that to cover a license, a particular location, and obtain a mining license or obtain an exploration license. And they can also obtain the consent from the local communities, and investors who are actually interested in such location can come in and give the state their own shares. I think that is one of the ways a state government can actually earn a lot from, you know, from mining, because if they are able to gather some of these licenses and give it to investors based on the extent of work they do, they can also want to take some exploration program. They can want to bring it up to the mining level. So it depends on the extent of work, how you made the license ready. An investor can come in and say, okay, because of this is the equity that is offering you. So, or is actually giving you a sweat equity, or as the case may be. But I believe that in some locations, like when I went to Zambia, we'll notice that the state government, there's a kind of roles they play. Automatically, they are having 10% in every of the mining field that actually happening there. So I think the same thing can actually also happen in state. If that happens, I think it will be easier to control the community, because the communities and the local government are a bit closer to the state compared to the federal government. So I think this is a way they can also partake in mining activities. So that the way forward in terms of sensitization will be the closest people to the community, the host community, is in the whole of this fair. I don't think that the local government is actually carried along, but on the federal mines officer, the mining inspectorate, and all that needs to devise a sensitization program that has to be a routine thing within the communities. You know, there should be, you know, sometimes they carry they carry it, within some community, but it's not something that is routine. If that is actually done, the host community's rights need to be well spelled out to them. Like for example, some host communities do not even know that they have access to the surface rent. You know, surface rent actually belongs to them, apart from other things which have to be paid annually, as far as the operators is making use of the land. So there should be all the rights that actually accrue to them, and all the benefits that accrue to them, and what they should do and what they should not do need to be seen. They don't even know that interrupting the mining activities is an offense. you know Most of them do not even know that. So interrupt when an operator has actually done what he's supposed to do, and you are they are interrupted, is an offense. I've had cases of several locations where you've done all you need to do, and you see someone coming out paid from another location coming to disrupt all your activities and all that. So I think that sensitization needs to be a routine thing, and it has to be carried out from the mines inspectorate, the what do you call it, the mines federal mines officers within that actually located within different jurisdiction. So in that way, I think that could actually be minimized, because most of the people that do all those things they are ignorant of what they are doing. And also, if the local communities are aware of what is accrued to them, they will understand that some of the illegal miners that are coming in are actually endangering so many things in their environment, because some of the illegal miners do not have the capacity to, them, because they mine in a crude way and they are after the immediate income. They don't have plannings in few years. So what they do is they degrade the environment, and the next thing is that they leave the pits in different locations. If you are aware of what happened in Ebonyi State one time ago, some vehicle just jumped into some of the pits, and the entire passengers, no one came out, because there wasn't there wasn't all the necessary planning. The barricades that are actually supposed to be there were not there, and all that. So I think the danger that are involved in all those things need to be spelled out. There should be a routine check. There should be a routine sensitization and extension programs to some of these communities, and they need to also be involved, in that. Also, there should be a kind of a training that should be given to the mining communities, the mining committee, because most of the provision for the mining committee, that the extraction from the local communities need to be trained, so that they can actually sensitize and retrain some other local communities the essence of doing what they are doing at any particular point in time. I think these are some major recommendations that need to put forward for mining activity to actually strive in some communities.